Hey guys, Jim here. Going to be doing something pretty darn exciting right now. For those of you that go back with me a ways in time on my channel, you may recall a time back in February of 2013 where I was able to give you a sneak peek on a prototype of a Jason Brous custom folder called the Division. And I was able to get that in my hands. I bought it from Jason and had it about 4 months before it ever released to the public. And it gave everybody a chance to see the knife up close, get an idea of what it was really all about, and make a decision as to whether they were going to want to buy one or not, in plenty of time to stick back a few bucks and be able to get one. Well, now I get the same chance once again with this. And I got to tell you, I am pretty damn excited about this one. Jason is releasing 2 new knives very, very shortly. One's called the Bionic, and there will be a separate video on that, which will be a mini EDC budget folder. And then there's this, the T4. And while it seems like it could be something that you would expect to see Jason do, I look at it as something that is quite a departure from what he's typically offering. Now, one of the cool things is Jason is still relatively new to the folder game. As you may recall, when I got my Silent Soldier, that was the very first folder that Jason had ever made. I told you guys, I said, you need to keep an eye out for this guy because he is going to make a serious impression on the folding market. And he absolutely has. I mean, he's already made the impression on the fixed blade market, making some really crazy, aggressive, cool custom shit. And almost immediately after setting his sights on making folders, flippers more accurately, he has created quite a buzz. And whether you love the guy or hate the guy, doesn't really matter. His knives are being talked about. They're being bought, sold, traded, and all over the place in the knife collecting community, and a lot of people love his stuff, myself obviously included. You guys know that. So what we're seeing now is the second collaboration that he's done. You guys might recall the very first collaboration knife that he did, which was the Reloader with Mikkel Willemsen, and this has been a huge hit for Jason. Now, what he's doing is he's actually creating, for the most part, a production knife. It's still what I consider to be a mid-tech. You know, it's his hands that are still involved with all the final assembly, with grinding all the blades, all that kind of good stuff. But he's able to put out a decent number of them. What he's going to do with this one, he's going to be releasing 500 pieces. I'm fairly certain they're going to be individually numbered. But regardless, there are 500 pieces of these. And before I get off on too much about the knife and the story and the collaboration, I want you to keep in the back of your mind that this is a knife that's going to be selling for $259. Let me repeat that again. $259. And while we all looked at the Division and the Reloader as being a really nice price point, this blows them both out of the water. And I got to tell you, it is one hell of a knife. All right, let me get it open and let me get you a good look at it first before we get off too much on storytelling. Oh, look at that beauty. Now, this is all custom milled black G10. There's a reason for every line that you're seeing here. I'll explain that logo in just a little bit. Now, while I'm not typically a backspacer guy, you guys know that I really am more of a standoff fan. I really like the way that that was designed. There's some very heavy jimping. Here is the backside with the brand new designed custom Brous clip. And I got to tell you, this thing is balls to the wall. One of the things that I'm always going to nail a maker on is if they make a flipper, it damn well better flip. Well, as per usual, Jason nailed it. Take a good look at this. Look at that grind. Look at that secondary bevel. A little bit of silence here just to observe the beauty of the knife. And the craftsmanship in the way it was ground. Now, look at that smoothness. $259, huh? Seems a little bit crazy. Now let's talk a little bit about where the inspiration for this came from and what you're actually looking at. This is a collaboration between Jason, being the maker of the knife, and a gentleman named Jason Moriel-Riboloff. And yeah, that's quite a mouthful, isn't it? It's a hyphenated name, and that should tell you something. No, hyphens have nothing to do with anything, but I will tell you this. The guy is a really strong designer, because as we go through this, you're going to see a lot of things that make this not just a design that's appealing to the eye, but it's appealing to the senses and to somebody that really wants to actually carry the knife and actually use it. Now, as per usual, Jason is using D2 steel for his blade. And like I've said before, I've never had a single issue with D2. Yes, it is going to be a little more susceptible to rusting than most other of the exotic steels that we're seeing these days. But you get yourself a bottle of Aegis EDC knife care solution, and you really don't have to worry about much of anything. It's a super strong steel. It's going to hold an edge for a good amount of time. It's easy to resharpen. And it's got a nice tough edge to it. He made a nice sharp knife on this, by the way. It is really, really sharp. The ergonomics are fantastic. Take a look as I drop my hand into place where everything falls into place on this. And in the reverse handhold, the reason that they went with a back spacer instead of standoffs, so you'd have the reverse thumb jimping for every different kind of position. It's not a very lightweight knife, but it's not a cumbersome knife. It's a lot of thick G10 over the titanium frame. And actually, you know what, I shouldn't say that, because what he's using here is a steel liner lock, so my apologies getting into the materials here. This is going to be a steel liner lock, and that was also done for a very specific reason. So let's talk about what the reasons are for this design and why I think it's so cool. What we're looking at is a flat ground drop point blade with a very unique signature to the shape of it. I love that this is one of the few knives that I can actually play with any hand and not have any issues opening it or closing it. It's actually kind of a, for me anyway, kind of a simple ambidextrous design. Not being a frame lock, I'm not applying pressure over here when I'm holding the knife, so it's actually really simple, really easy to flip open. The other great thing about this design is the fact that you've got this little thumb groove area here, and it actually works very, very well. And I haven't tried flicking it. Oh, hey, look, you could even flick it from there as well. So instead of having like a spidey hole or some kind of other big thumb hole, not having a clunky thumb stud there, it's a nice clean design that actually accentuates the overall design of the blade shape and the handle shape, and it actually gives you something useful. So far, I haven't found anything on this knife that was done only for beauty and not for usefulness. So the reason they decided to do a lot of these different things is Jason being very specific. Again, I'm speaking about Jason Moriel being very, very specific. He's had actually quite an interesting life, and I had a chance to kind of converse with him a little bit earlier tonight. This is somebody that carries one or two knives on him at all times. He's studied martial arts, studied knife fighting and things like that. And he says he wanted to make a knife that he could carry, he could use as a fighter, use to stab, slash, or use even in survival situations or or just use it for everyday tasks like cutting down boxes. He wanted to have a blade shape that would do everything for him and not really leave him wanting. He wanted the stainless steel liner lock because of the additional strength. He feels that a titanium frame lock is going to be a little bit weaker than having a steel liner lock. And, you know, everybody's going to have a different opinion about that. I'm not here to give my opinion. I'm just here to relay the story that he told me. He's not a big fan of hollow ground blades. He feels that they're going to be a little bit weak for any kind of really super hard use. So the flat grind was the only way that he wanted to go. And good thing that Jason Brous decided that his idea was a good one, because they were able to get this accomplished. So you've got a nice full flat grind on there. This thing is just beautifully made. Now keep in mind, this is the prototype, so there may be a little widget here and there that may be a little bit different from the production knife, but I think they are really close to having the production knives ready. So what you're seeing here, I would have to say reasonably, is probably 98% what you're going to be seeing in the final product. One of the other nice things is this back spacer. While they wanted the back spacer so they could have all the extra jimping and extra grip, they did make it as much of a pass-through as they could. So it's almost a floating back spacer in here. So it's easy to blow out dirt, lint, gunk, nastiness outside from inside of the knife. They were very, very smart to use as much of the handle as they could to fold the blade into. There's not a lot of extra material here, so what you've got is a big-ass blade and a handle that really doesn't feel that big. Let's give it a comparison to a 3.5-inch reloader. And we'll do like we always do, butt to butt, because that's the way everything should be in life, butt to butt. And you'll see you've got a good solid 1/2-inch difference there between the reloader and in the new T4. Now let's do this. Let's put these pivot to pivot, and you'll get a better idea of the handle length difference as well. So there's a considerable difference in size. And I'm actually kind of glad. I love my reloader, but it is a little bit short here to use, in my opinion, as a tactical or defensive tool. Whereas this, I feel like I've got a nice grip on it. It's coming around really, really nicely. You got to realize this is the shape of handle that you would see in a typical fighting knife. It's going to kind of lock your hand in there. It's not going to move around fore or aft. Locks you in very, very nicely. The little swedges that are being done here allows your fingers to drop in very easily. And likewise, back this way, your flipper is acting as a finger guard, so in any position, even in the forward position, it's acting as a finger guard, preventing your hand from slipping up and sliding up the blade. Really aggressive jimping, and one of the things that I had mentioned a while back on my reloader review was that the jimping was a little bit sharp on the reloader. It's not quite as sharp here. It's still very, very aggressive, and the closest comparison that I can give you would be in a Hinderer XM18 or XM24. And it's aggressive and you feel it, but it's not really going to tear up your fingers. However, when it comes to the flipping, when your finger goes down into that, you really, really feel it. We've discussed that before on my numerous Hinderer videos. And on this one, you have two different ways you can flip. You can either pull back on it, or you can kind of push button it like you typically do with a Hinderer. Now, when you push button it, it's going to go back to kind of tearing into your finger a little bit. But good news, kiddies. I talked to Jason Brous about this last night when they arrived. And I said, you know what? I don't have a single thing that I can really pick apart on this. I said, but for me personally, and it's a personal thing, on a flipper, I like a really strong detent so that that blade will scream out of the handle once it breaks that detent. He says, oh, don't worry about that. He goes, I've already adjusted or made the plans to adjust the production pieces where the detent is going to be quite a bit stronger. So you're going to be able to pull back on this, and while it's already rocketing out, I expect this thing to be damn near legendary. I think it's going to live up to some of the legendary flippers that we all know and love. But if you want to push button it, super fast. And we've gotten kind of used to push buttoning with Jason Brous, haven't we? With the the Silent Soldier flipper and with the reloader, we're kind of used to that. Really, his only pullback flipper is going to be the Division, and that's just because of the curved nature of the flipper tab. But you're also seeing that here, although it's not as large, not as prominent, and I kind of like that. It's going to be a little bit more sleek in its design, and again, it just fits very, very, very nicely. So basically, you have a 2 Jason collaboration here, and we'll refer to hyphenated Jason as Jason number 2. That is his logo. Now, his company is Tanium Design and Tanium Tactical Tools. He's actually getting ready to release a model or two of his own knives, not in a collaboration with anybody, but his own knives, not just his design. So I'm anxiously awaiting the announcement for those. He did share with me privately, and I will not be sharing it publicly, the CAD renderings of his designs, and you can see his obvious design influence and where he tends to go into kind of a futuristic fighter look. So I'm very excited to see those when they come out. I will do my best to get my hands on one. So all that stuff out of the way, you've got G10, you've got D2 steel, you've got a rock-solid workhorse of a knife that gives you plenty of belly in the blade for actual cutting tasks. You've got a fighter handle, you've got plenty of room to move your thumb up here and kind of get in position and lock in, or you can use the jimping. You've got the practicality of I can flip if I want, or I can slow open with the thumb slot if I want, or I can flick open almost as fast as the flipper and still have a what I think is a nice looking design with the grooves that are milled in there. I love the shape of this blade. This is going to be a strong reinforced tip, so it's going to be very good for piercing and stabbing. Obviously, you've got a great slasher here. Any kind of reverse handhold. You've got plenty of jimping all the way around, plenty of comfort in the hand, and you're going to be able to very securely hold this knife and keep it in your hand. The pocket clip is honestly fantastic. No, it's not some crazy 3D machined wonder, but it doesn't need to be. It's a nice, clean design that flows well with the shape of the knife. It's practical. It's got very, very good retention in the pocket. It rides somewhat deep. It's not super deep. Thank God. I'm getting tired of all these friggin' deep carry pocket clips where you can't get a hold of the friggin' knife. This, you've got about this much hanging out, so it gives you plenty of room for the fat of your hand or for your fingers to grab onto it. Still, once again, Jason, I gotta give you one knock, buddy, and you know I love you, but you gotta start giving us lanyard holes. Some guys prefer lanyards and some guys don't. I'm the kind that it depends on the knife and how it carries in the pocket. Some knives I lanyard, some knives I don't. This is one with its tactical nature that it has that I would want a lanyard. I would want to have that where I can grab onto something and quickly pop it up and into my hand for the flipping. That's just me, however. Now that could have been incorporated into the back spacer, but that may have gotten in the way for your thumb on the reverse handhold. Something could have been done with the clip or something, just kind of a little loop off the back. So maybe just something to keep in mind for the future. That would be great, but I love the clip. Very useful, very easy to keep in the pants. I kind of played around with it a little bit today in my pants and had no issues with it riding up, wanting to slip around or anything goofy like that. So what you've got here is what I think a screaming deal. It's a simple knife. When you really get down to it, you do have Brous's bearing system in here, so it's a caged bearing system. Very similar to GTC bearings, if you will, so it's a thrust bearing system. So you don't have IK ABS. They're not loose bearings just sitting in there. Simple liner lock. I don't really expect to see any lock issues whatsoever. The packaging is simple. This is his standard cardboard box that you're used to, but he always gives you goodies. You're going to get your microfiber cleaning cloth. You're going to get the obviously the plastic bag that it came in. He always throws in a few stickers. Hey, it's always good to get some advertising. His business card, which is right there, so you can always get in contact with him. There's his phone number, the websites, email addresses, Facebook, his address, bingo bango. and then your certificate of authenticity that will come with pretty much every knife I believe that he has ever made. Custom T4, this obviously being the prototype, black G10, D2 tool steel, 61 Rockwell hardness. And there is his signature and the date on there as well. So nice packaging on a simple knife that I think serves multiple purposes. Something that you can carry every day, use to cut open boxes, you know, do whatever basic everyday stuff you need to do. It's something that the guy's guy is going to want to have in his pocket. This is a great show-off piece because it is so liquid smooth. I mean, it takes almost no effort for it to drop back into that handle. And that's his great bearing system. I have not lubed this, by the way. I have done nothing to it, and it is just super slick and smooth. He's got great alignment, great fitment of everything. Everything is just done to as close to perfection as you could ever expect. And honestly, if this were anyone else's knife, this would be at least $400. You've got a unique shape to it. It flows nicely. It doesn't really look like anything else out there on the market. The closest thing I can think of is a German brand that makes custom knives. So it's got a very kind of a European feel to it, in my opinion. It's a useful blade shape. The action, again, I have to go back to that. I am a sucker for a good flipper, and this, my friends, is one fantastic freaking flipper. So I would suggest to you, if you're watching this now while the video is freshly uploaded, go over to browseblades.com, get your pre-order in. What have you got to lose? You're spending so little money. You'll buy production Spydercos and things like that in this price range, and you're getting into a great mid-tech. You want to call it production, that's fine, but it really gets into that mid-tech category. It's a solid, stout-built knife that flips like nobody's business. There you go, guys. There is your quick sneak peek. You will get a full and more detailed review when the production is ready and I have my first one in my hands. I say first because, oh, daddy gonna own more than one. All right, guys, I will get back to you soon. I'll give you a quick sneak peek here of the next video that's coming up. And that will be on his new little Bionic. So get ready for that. Hopefully I'll have that up in the next day or two. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. See you next time.